This is lesson 3.6, preview notes. We're going to talk about triangle shortcuts called side, 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 angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. Taking a look here, don't forget to get the location and the time that you're watching this video and a parent signature guardian sign off. First off, let's go way back. I'd like you to pause the video, do this page, and then restart the video after you've graphed it. Okay, welcome back. The first thing you want to do is get y by itself. And if you remember the storyline, y has a bad attitude. So we're going to circle y, and we want everybody to get out of the room. So we're going to take the double date over first. So negative 7x minus 7x. So now, next line, negative 4y equals, I'm going to bring the x forward because I want it to look like this. Y equals mx plus b. So I bring that x forward. So I have negative 7x plus 16. Now we're going to get rid of the negative 4, the date. And we're dividing. And she's going to gossip the date. She's going to go over and gossip to everybody. So we end up with y equals. Now, slopes, you always leave as a fraction. That's a double negative, becomes a positive, so it's simply 7 over 4x. And 4 goes into 16 4 times, but that's minus 4. And when you go to graph this, we start at negative 4, right there. And our rise is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And our run is 4, and it's positive. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And get yourself a straight line. And you're going to end up with a straight line right here. So now that you have a bit of a review, we're going to move on. Now remember, last class we talked about congruent triangles. And here we have a triangle, ABC and FDE. So technically it's going to be ABC is congruent to that we went triple, single, triple, double, single. So we have to go EDF. And when the triangles are congruent, we have a total of 6 items equal. 6, if you look carefully. Whoop, too big, too big. Backtrack just a little bit. Yep, backtrack a little more. Okay, we have a total of 6 items equal. We have 3 sets of congruent sides. So 3 sets of congruent sides, see this side, and then you have another pair of sides, and another pair of sides. And then we have 3 sets of congruent angles. 1 pair of angles, 2 pair of angles, 3 pair of angles. So that's a total of 6 items, 6. 3 sets of angles, 3 sets of sides. That's a lot of stuff to keep track of. Now, just as a reminder, how do we know things are congruent? We have to watch out for freebies. Things that are congruent, even if they're not marked. They're congruent, but not marked. There's 3 of them I want you to watch out for. 1 are vertical angles. So if you see them, sweep them, and put A for a pair of angles in a circle. A reflexive side is going to look like this. that side, if we have two triangles here, one on the left, one on the right. So that pink and green triangle both share the blue. So the blue is called a reflexive side. So hatchet, S for side. That's a reflexive side. These two triangles, let's go ahead and trace this one. Trace this one. Now, if you look really carefully, there's an angle that both those triangles exactly share. I'm going to see if you can't find that one on your own. Sweep it and mark it with an A. Okay, so taking a look here, that pink and light blue both exactly share that angle right there. Hatchet. Put an A, that's called a reflexive angle. Now, when you have congruent triangles, just a little congruent triangles, we know automatically that there's 6 pairs of things congruent. 6 pairs congruent. 6 pairs congruent. That's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So we're going to talk about shortcuts. Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about shortcuts. And what the shortcut says is this. If you have 3 pairs of things, you automatically get all 6. Automatically you get all 6. So if you have a minimum of 3, automatically you get the other 6. That's why it's called a shortcut. The first shortcut is this. If you have 3 pairs of sides equal, so hatch mark, put 1 S, circle for a side, that's another pair of sides. Notice I circle and put an S. And then a third pair of sides, circle, put an S. If you have 3 pairs of sides, that's called side, side, side congruency. That's a shortcut. If all 3 corresponding sides are equal, automatically the angles are equal. That's 1 of 4 we're going to learn. Let me get you an example. So in this example here, there's a freebie there. You've got 10 seconds to find and mark the freebie. Okay, so your freebie here would be this guy right here down the middle. That's reflexive. So we're going to mark it. Hatch mark, that's an S. And then we already have a pair that are pre-marked. That's another S. And then triple mark. That's another S. So this is an example of side, side, side triangle congruency. That's one shortcut. There's 4. Our next shortcut says this. Oops, Daisy. Okay, this says if I have a pair of sides equal, so mark 1 hatch mark, put an S for side. And then I have an angle. That's A for angle. Notice I call that a squeeze angle. The angle has to be squeezed between the sides. And then I have another pair of sides. So notice the sides squeeze that angle. This is called side angle side shortcut. That angle has to be squeezed between the angles. Let me give you an example of side angle side shortcut. In this diagram, there's a freebie, mark it. What's congruent but not marked right now? Mark it. And you should have marked these pair of vertical angles. That's A for angle. Then you already have a pair of congruent sides and another pair of congruent sides. Notice this angle is squeezed between the congruent sides. So this is called the side angle side shortcut. That forces everything about the triangles to be equal. That's the second shortcut out of 4. All right, let's go on to the next one. So far we have side, 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 and side angle side. Now the next two are a bit notorious for being confused. So be very careful with this one. This one's called side angle, side angle. So if you start with a pair of congruent angles this time, start with a pair of congruent angles. Notice I have A for angle. Then if you have a pair of congruent sides, S for side. And then another pair of angles. That's called angle, side angle. Now, I call this the hamburger. The reason why, because if you're holding a hamburger, it looks like to me that I have two angles with a hamburger patty in between. That's why it's called angle, side angle. So angle, side, angle. Can you visualize that? Your hands are angles with a side sandwiched between. So that side is like that hamburger patty. Let me give you an example of this. So that's called the hamburger. I'll give you two examples. Example 1. There's a freebie there, mark it. Okay, so there's a pair of angles. Now here, notice we have a pair of sides. So that's an S. And then we have another pair of angles. That's an A. That side is sandwiched between the angles, so that is an example of ASA shortcut. If you have ASA, it means the entire triangle is equal. Let's try another one. Whoops, 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 too much. Okay, there's your second diagram. Ready? There's a freebie there. Mark it. See if you can't find that freebie. There's something that's equal that's not marked. Okay, so this would be your reflexive side. So there's your S. Now watch. We have one pair of angles. Technically, it's like armpits of the Z going on here. We have another pair of angles, a separate set. So this is, again, angle, side angle, where the side is sandwiched between two distinct pairs of angles. That's angle, side angle. That's 3 of 4. Okay, we have one more left. This one is angle, angle, side. This is if we have a pair of angles. And then another pair of angles, and then a side. Notice that side there is not squeezed between both angles. It's just touching one. I call that a tail side. So it's not a hamburger, it's a tail. Here's what I'm visualizing. Snout, rear end, tail. Angle, angle, side. Yes, I have a vivid imagination. I'll do a couple examples there. You're recording. Okay, life is good. Still recording. Good, good, good. Okay, so here's our example. So right here, we have a pair of angles, A for angles, and then we have a pair of vertical angles in the middle. And then we have a pair of sides marked equal. Notice the side is not sandwiched between the angles. So this is angle, angle, side. Here's another example here. We have a pair of pre-marked angles and another pair of angles. And then we had a side. So that's this angle, angle, side. Notice that side is not sandwiched between the angles. Now, side-side angle does not work. It's called the ambiguous case. The way I remember it, it's called the ambiguous case. You can look it up. It's not always a good shortcut. There's only one example that it is. I'll talk about that in class. The way I remember you can't use it, just think of this. No bad words spelled either way. All right. So let me show you how. Number one, you're going to note stuff that is pre-marked. You're going to note things that are already marked. Then you're going to find things that are freebies. And remember the three freebies I want you watching for are congruent angles, reflexive sides, and the reflexive angle. And then determine whether it's side, 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 angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. I'm going to do the first two with you. Ready? So in this one, there's a freebie side, right? So we have to put an S. And notice we have a pair of angles. And then we have another pair of angles, a different pair. Notice the side is sandwiched between the angles. So this shortcut is going to be angle, side, angle. Ah. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, so we were right here. First one is angle, side, angle. Second one, we marked the freebie. And our freebie is the reflexive side, so I put an S. And then notice I already have another pair of sides, S. Another pair of sides, S. So this one's going to be side, side, side. Do one more. Taking a look here, we have a pair of vertical angles. So there's an A. We have a pre-marked. Another A. And then we have a pair of sides. There's an S. Now you ask yourself, is that side sandwiched between two distinct angles? Is it a hamburger? Or is it two angles and then that side is a tail? That's what your question is. Is it a hamburger? Or is it a tail? This would be angle, side, angle. This is angle, angle, side. If you look very carefully here, this one, you have two angles and then a side, so this can read angle, angle, side, or it could also read side, angle, angle, same thing. Okay, you pause the video and you find the rest. Restart the video when you're done. All right, students. There's no shortcut. Ready? Okay, let's see what you did here. So here you had a pair of angles, and then we had another pair of angles, and then a side was sandwiched between. So technically, this is going to be angle, side, angle. Now, some of you are having a hard time seeing the difference between angle, angle, side, and angle, side, angle. So what you want to do is just look at the one triangle. So I'm going to darken this out. And look here on the left, there's two angles and then a side. That's why we call this a tail. Versus on this one, if you just look at the one triangle, the side is sandwiched between two distinct. So this one is a hamburger. That one was a tail. Let's see how you do on these guys. This one, we had a pair of sides. So a pair of sides. S, and then we have another pair of sides, S, and then here we have a third pair of sides. So my shortcut here is going to be side, side, side. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. We have a pair of sides. And then we had a pair of angles, and then here we had a pair of sides, reflexive, so this one is, and that angle is sandwiched between the sides, so it's side, angle, side. Okay, this is not side, side, angle. That angle is sandwiched between the sides. If it's spelled side, side, angle, we call that the ambiguous case, and it doesn't work, but this one does, because the angle is squeezed between. Let's take a look at these two. Let's look at what we have. We have a pair of sides, and we have another pair of sides, and then we have the bow ties in the middle. So technically, this is also side, angle, side. This last one, let's look at what we have. We have a pair of angles that were marked for us. We have a pair of bow ties, and then we have a pair of sides. Now, if you look at the one set of triangles, so let me scratch this out so you don't look at it. This side, is it touching both angles or is it a tail? In other words, does it look like this? It's two separate angles and then a side? Or is it a hamburger? So is it a tail or a hamburger? It's going to be a tail. So this one is angle, angle, side. You'll get lots of practice in class.